Welcome to the Unseminary Podcast. Are you looking for practical ministry help to drive your ministry further, faster? Have a sinking feeling that your ministry training didn't prepare you for the real world? Hey, you're not alone. Join thousands of others in pursuit of stuff that we wish they had taught in seminary. Buckle up and let's get started with this week's Unseminary Podcast.
Well, hey everybody, welcome to the Unseminary Podcast. My name's Rich, the host around these parts. So glad that you've decided to spend some time with us. I know that you've had a busy week as you're heading into this weekend at your church, and we're just honored that you would take some time out now, pop us in your earbuds, and Lord, we pray that it'll be an encouraging time for you as we listen in today. Today, it's our privilege, our honor, really, to have Jim Pourteau with us today from Destination Church. If you don't know Destination Church, you really should get a chance to get to know them. Church only was started in 2011. It's a fast-growing church. Last year, they grew, I believe, by 34%, which is incredible, coming in, at about 1,600, folks or so. There are 3 campuses, about to be 4. Jim, he's is an executive coach, is a part of kind of the John Maxwell team. He's a great guy, also a campus pastor. He does it all. Jim, we're so glad that you're with us on the show today. Why don't you tell us about your role there at Destination Church?
Hey, Rich, thanks so much for letting me be here today. And I got to tell you, you guys are doing a phenomenal work there. The way you're just encouraging and lifting up the body and helping pastors get a little better and honing their skills. So it really matters. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Oh, I really appreciate that, Jim. Thank you so much.
Yeah, bud. Well, I started as a volunteer at Destination Church. So I came in one day and I wasn't looking for a position. I was looking for a place to worship. And I walked in and just fell in love with the vision of the church. And they were talking about Pastor Brian, our lead pastor, said, just to summarize it, he said this. He said, we're never going to be a cruise ship. We're going to be a fishing vessel. He said, as people come in here, I just want you to know that it's going to stink because fishing boats stink. And everybody on a fishing boat works.
Right.
It's not, although it may be entertaining at times, it's not about entertaining. And I've been a pastor for a long time and said, man, I can just resound with this. And so I started volunteering by setting up in the kids ministry because we're a portable church in all of our campuses. And I don't know anything about all that stuff, but they took me in and I did that. And next thing you know, we just began to work together. And with my background in leadership development as part of John Maxwell's team and stuff like that, just met, started talking. He said, can you come in and consult? Started doing some stuff, just helping them, then came on part-time. And the next thing you know, it was like the Borg. I was assimilated into the place. And I got to tell you, it's been the most phenomenal. And I'm coming up on my 28th year of ministry, full-time ministry. It has been the most phenomenal place, culture-wise, respect-wise, powerful to be a part of this church and this staff. And we have a very young staff. So I'm the old guy on staff, by the way.
Yes.
But it's just been a powerful thing. So I came in kind of as a consultant. Now, as the executive pastor, I have some typical executive pastor roles, which is I oversee our organization, making sure we're staying in the lanes between the vision and the values. I'm part of the executive team, so we are kind of the inner circle for Brian, and so he can sound off things and have a safe place to test stuff and talk about things. And I'm responsible for our staff and hiring and things like that. But one of my key roles is how we develop our leadership culture, and that means how our folks are on a path or a process of becoming better leaders, so we can actually lead the people that God brings us. And so that takes up quite a bit of what I get to do there. And in the organization, we're a strange church in a lot of ways, and that is that. And I won't even go into that because we're being recorded. But we're probably one of the few churches, if not the only church in the United States that owns its own movie theater, and we actually show regular movies there.
Oh my goodness!
Not all the real bad ones, but nevertheless, we show movies there as an outreach to the community, and we've seen scores of families come through our movie theater. So I oversee that as well.
Wow! So now, do you, in the movie theater you own, do you then set up tear down on Sunday?
We do. So even though we own the movie theater, we're still a portable church. So on Sunday, we do, this is our Crossings campus, we have a 9 o'clock, an 11 o'clock, and then a 5 p.m. service there. So we've negotiated, we have a connection, so we negotiated to have the movies a little bit later. The movies don't start till about 7 there. So we're able to do our mornings and then our evening service, but it has to all set up and tear down, full band, children, everything. It's a lot of work, but we've pretty much knocked the system out. It happens now.
All right, so now this isn't what we were going to talk about, but help me understand that for a second. That seems like the worst of both worlds. You're owning a building, and then you're also setting up. Give me the heart behind that. Why own a movie theater?
Well, part of it started is that we said, well, we're already in church. We're already a church in a movie theater. And,
Yes.
Regal, there's probably some guys listening that are part of the movie theater churches.
Totally.
And so Regal does a great job working with them. And I have nothing bad to say about Regal whatsoever.
Right.
We have amazing relationships there.
Yep.
And so we thought about it. And, our church is, in the last 4.5 years, we've seen over 1,800 people accept Christ.
Wow.
We're extremely evangelical in our outreach, although we are focused on discipleship in our small groups.
Yep.
And so we actually, it was Brian and one of our other campus pastors were having coffee one day, and they said, why couldn't we just start our own movie theater one day? I mean, we're in there, and then the movie theater would pay for the church, and so
right.
you wouldn't have to worry about anything, and we could reach the community. And so it just was a dream, and one day the local movie theater, it was a dollar theater, went out of business.
Yep.
I think that the only people attending or going to that were rats and spiders at that point.
Oh, gosh.
And we went in there, it was dilapidated, it was torn down, but we were able to negotiate. We spent about $300,000 going in there, renovating it, bringing it up to modern standards, and opened it as a $5 movie theater. So, the regular movie theater is about $14, $13. Yep. And we said, well, how can we help a family out to be a part of this? It's family entertainment. Cool. And so that's what happened. We started in that arena. Actually, the movie studios made us go up to $750.
Oh my gosh.
But we still kept it down. And really what you see is this community of people that come in and go, wait, what's going on here? And this is a church. That's the weirdest thing I ever heard. But, Rich, let me be clear about this. There's nothing wrong with I want to be clear, there's nothing wrong with a lateral growth. And what I mean by that is someone goes from one church to another church because they have more fidelity to the vision of the new church or whatever. No problem with that. But our focus 100% is on reaching people that are unchurched. Our mission is to start churches who can help people find their destination in Christ. And so we're pushing that, and it's just part of our vision. It is strange. It is weird. We've had pastors go, what are you folks doing?
Exactly.
But that's who we are.
Absolutely. Well, I hope, even just in this little bit of beginning, why, you've already heard why you should be listening into Destination Church. This is an innovative church that's doing some really cool stuff. You're going to want to learn about it. Now, I want to talk a little bit about your journey. The thing that's fascinating to me, you showed up just as a guy, and I say that in air quotes, just as a guy who was showing up. You start out helping out, somehow go from a guy helping set up in kids ministry to being a consultant with the church, eventually the executive pastor. You've kind of seen the entire spectrum there of leadership. It seems like you were kind of exerting amount of influence, but they didn't give you a title. How does that work out? And it seems like that may be an area that you've got some passion for. Let's talk about that.
Well, I truly do, and let me be clear. When I got involved in serving at the church, my focus and heart was just to serve the church.
Yes.
I wanted to be a part of the vision. I had fidelity with it. I said I can be a part of this, and so I started serving. But God calls people. He calls us for influence. That's why we're called salt and light, right? Salt influences, light influences. It doesn't necessarily change it. It influences it, and so so as I got to be a part of that, the gifts that God has given me, I guess, begin to be evident. And in fact, all of us know that if you go into a room and you look around a room of a bunch of people at a party or a gathering, if you just pan the room, you'll eventually begin to see those people who begin to emerge with leadership giftings. Now, you can learn those things, but there are some people that have that. And I think that God just has blessed me in an area of navigation and leadership. Don't get me wrong. I spend every morning, I'm up at about 5:30. I'm reading something about leadership. I want to be the best I can be, so I do what I can. But in coming into that place in serving, I went and met with Brian. I made an appointment, and I just said, hey, I want to introduce myself. I won't do it in this podcast, but I had burnt out in ministry. I was tired of being what ministry or what people expected ministry to be. I just couldn't live up to folks, and I quit for a little while. And so this was a time of respite for me. And I remember telling Brian, I have no desire to be a pastor. I don't want to preach. I just want to help you guys. Right. And so with that aspect, he said, well, come on in and start talking. And I had no title, nothing like that. I just walked in. But people all the time will say, hey, Jim, how do you value people? And one of the things I'll say is, if you value people, they will know they're valuable. He said, how do you love people? If you love people, they will know they're loved. And I guess that in what I was doing and how I was ministering there and just serving, it began to show and the influence began to happen. And so folks began to ask me questions or people would solicit information. And Brian is a smart guy. And what I mean by that, not by choosing me, he just has a sense of faith and discernment about him. He chooses well, he looks well. And one day Brian just grabbed me and he said, can you help us out a little bit? And so it moves into the area of what's really important for me, and that is that, a lot of times folks are waiting to get a position or a title before they actually do something. If I had this, I could do that.
Right.
And it's funny, Jesus changed the world, and the only people that gave him a title was God, really. This is my son, so to speak. But he didn't lead from a title or anything like that. So it was important that as I started doing things, I just did it from influence. If you add value to people and help them follow and discover their dream, they will follow and be a part of what you're doing.
Now, how are you kind of implementing that? I'm assuming that's, when you think about your team, you're hoping people will lead like that, right? That we're, it's not about titles, it's not necessarily about just this is where the box is on the chart. How are you helping kind of, cultivating that in your church?
Yeah, well, one of the things is that we've had to bring a culture change of understanding what leadership is.
Okay.
And so in going into starting with our staff of talking about, hey guys, let's not just delegate tasks. Let's not delegate, as it were, a position or a title. In fact, let's hold those for a minute. In fact, here's a funny part. If you look at our business cards of every staff member at Destination, they don't have our title on it. It just says Jim Pourteau, Destination Church. And that's because next week I might be doing children. You never know.
Right.
But the truth is that we had to establish a culture within our staff that understands this. You don't lead by your title. You lead by your influence as you build relationship, as you help people discover their value and their dream. And so as we begin to bring that and our staff begin to grab that vision, that made a difference. And then you have to, you can't stop there. You have to begin to move it through, for lack of a better word, the rank and file of people, which is kind of contradictory to leading by influence, but people think as in hierarchy. And so we begin to establish among our dream team members of that it's not about your position. You may, this is a person that's seeing this area right now, but we want you as a team to contribute. This isn't delegating tasks. This isn't us telling everybody what to do. You have a voice. If you came in here 2 weeks ago as a cafe member, we want you to be able to share insight you've had just after 2 weeks of being with us, because we don't know it all. We don't see it all. But together we sure see a heck of a lot more. And so we've had to establish a culture of understanding that we lead by influence, not by title.
Interesting. Now, have there been any times where that's been kind of maybe bumped up against, hey, this hasn't worked very well, or there's been some tension in that? Give me a story of that, or has it all been just rainbows and unicorns?
Oh, yeah. One day we just snapped our fingers and everybody was like, let's play the influence game. No, we ran out of that Kool-Aid a long time ago.
Right.
Basically what happens is we've run into a couple minds of thought that came in there. One is that we had people that had come to our church who had been in previous churches, and they had an expectation of pastoral leadership. And so whatever church you're in today, if it works for you, it works. For us, we just had a different view of pastors and our leadership. We see the pastoral ministry as what Ephesians 4:11 says. That's equipping the saints for the work of the ministry. What a lot of people, especially in the South, you will find out come to is they expect their pastor to be the answer, the person who prays and preaches and does everything like that. Right. And we just don't have the ability to do that. How many people can I touch?
Right.
And so we had people come up, and even after we explained to them, hey, we want to empower you to be what Jesus has helped you to be. We want to empower you to touch lives. God wants to use you to pray for people, to minister to people, to give counsel and disciple. They would say, yeah, but you're the pastor.
Yeah, exactly.
And you say, yes, I am. Thank you for that honor. But you are the church. You're the church. And so it's taken some, but I got to tell you, if you stay true to your vision, vision leaks. So you have to keep reiterating it. every month, every few days. You got to talk about it. You got to represent it. You've got to demonstrate it. That means when we had to do stuff, we couldn't just be telling people what to do. We had to solicit information. You say, well, you're a consensus leader? No, by no means. We're team leadership. We just don't believe we know it all. So as these people resisted, and let me be clear about this too, Rich, we had a couple staff members that struggled with it because they came from a traditional background of saying, I'm supposed to be the answer.
Right.
And you know what? Once they grabbed this is cool. Once they were able to grab the fact that they didn't have to be the answer, that they didn't have to know all the questions, that they didn't have to meet everyone's needs, but that they could build a team and equip people to do what the Bible, the New Testament talks about doing, they went from being exhausted to excited.
Absolutely. Now, how much of, would you say this kind of team approach that you're articulating here, how much of it, do you believe that might be a part of what God is using to help grow your church? Because the part of when I hear you talking, a part of what I think some church leaders miss is they want to be the answer to everything, so they become a bottleneck. I know I can do that. I kind of subtly force everything to come through me and not empower people, and so that will actually slow down the growth of our church. Tell me about how you feel like this kind of team approach, how that relates to the growth you're seeing at Destination.
Absolutely. And one of the things when we're bringing leadership in or before we hire someone is we're talking to them about who they are.
Right.
We want to make sure that they understand that they've been fearfully and wonderfully created in the image of the Lord, and that they do adds more value to them, you see. And I think that's important, Rich, because a lot of in the society we live in and where we live in today, a lot of times people equate their value on their ability to do something, on their successes based on what other people around them. And we want you to know that no matter who you are, God, you may not be a 10 at everything, but you're a 10 somewhere. And so we're going to find the place that you could be a 10 at. We're going to find the place where you can serve and thrive in what God has for you. Now, we're not unrealistic in it. So the Bible says that God puts some over 5 or 10, and I'm paraphrasing, but 100 or 1,000. God equips people for different ways, and we have to be wise about that.
Right.
But the first thing we want people to know is that it's not what you do that's going to make you any better or any worse. You're good just like you are. The second thing that we try to do with people is let them understand this, is that together we are better. And if you can release that and understand that together we are better. Now you got to say it a lot,
right? Because
here's what we think. I am better, and I'm going to help them be better.
Right. Gosh,
I know that when I listen to you, if I jump on your podcast and listen to one of your podcasts, I'm going to pick something up in there that's going to make me better at what I do. It's going to give me a different view of it. So, so to go back to your original question, in that is that we have to really create this culture, and we've been struggling with it. It's a tension, okay?
Yes.
Of saying, hey, you know what? I might do it better, but it doesn't mean it's always the right way. And then we're going to model what Jesus did. Jesus constantly. What the first thing that Jesus did? Jesus went out and his mom made him do a miracle. So we'll get over that for a minute. Jesus had his own parent problems.
Yes.
All right. But the first thing he did was he set a team. He went out and he chose a disciple. He did that. When you watch him do ministry and miracles, you watch him use the team. You see his demonstration of what he did was powerful. He did the loaves and the fishes. He said, what do we have? They gave him information. He made decisions. He brought them decisions. And they distributed baskets. Then they collected baskets. And what we get out of that is when you use team, you get more in return.
So true.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it's been a challenge to do that. But when we bring people up there, we say, hey, it's a team, and we evaluate it. One of our 5 values, it takes teamwork to make the dream work. So when we're sitting and looking at someone successful or not, we're saying, how's your team? And it's in 2 places, and then we can move on. Sorry to take up your time.
No,
number
great.
1, the first place is are you building it numerically? Okay, and that's important. But numbers don't tell the whole story. Sometimes what we do is we build a team, but it's just me telling a bunch of people what to do.
Right.
So we build numerically. So is it growing that? Number 2, are they empowered to lead? Which means, can they make a decision where they are? And a lot of pastors today, and I was there for many, many years, we're afraid to give people the ability to make decisions and to lead. And I remember looking at my team about 8 months ago and saying, let me ask you a question. Give me something you'll do on a Sunday that'll totally screw up the Sunday. Just name something. What could you do? What could you do?
Right.
There's nothing you can do.
Right.
you're not going to mess it up. And if it's a bad decision, we'll talk about it Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah. And there's always next weekend.
No, it really is, and if Jesus comes back, none of us will care about it.
Yes,
So,
right, exactly.
So, it's fine. So this serenity fact that people need to make decisions. The more they make decisions, the better they'll get at it. Mm-hmm. The better they get at it, the wider we can increase our influence and the more people we can reach for Jesus Christ.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. Anything else you want to share before we move on into the next part of the show?
You may be listening today and going, well, Jim, thanks, that works for you. And I appreciate that. I say that all the time. Every time I go to Catalyst or go to one of my friends' conferences or something like that, I'll think that.
Yeah.
But here's the truth. You don't know till you try. It
Right.
won't happen overnight. But I want to encourage anybody listening, be willing to share the power that God has entrusted in you. If you can do that, and look, find faithful people. Don't just throw it away. Mm-hmm. But when you just extend that ability for people to lead, I promise you, the return will come back like you can't imagine. It's a powerful, powerful concept, being able to help people be authentic leaders in that arena.
This is the Unseminary Podcast. Stuff you wish they taught in seminary.
Well, we're going to jump into the lightning round. That's the part of the show where we ask similar questions of everybody that's been on the show. Today, we're super honored to have Jim Pourteau with us from Destination Church. It's been a great conversation so far. Thanks so much for being here today, Jim. Jim, what's an online resource that you're using these days that's kind of helping you in your ministry?
Wow, we use a lot, and man, I wish my team was there with me because those folks are crazy about stuff. But we use we just started using Google Docs. Now we've used Evernote for a while, and there's a premium area of Evernote that helps you in collaboration and things like that. But recently, as a nonprofit, Google Docs has doing some good stuff. So we've been working on that a little bit. So we use between Evernote and Google Docs. We're testing it right now to move over. One of the second things we started using that goes in with our accounting software is a software called Concur. And Concur is a great software. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's an app, and we're able to do across the board budget approvals and things like that, inter department and stuff like that. And it's really helped us because we were chasing each other down trying to get signatures. So if I spent something in music type thing, to bring accountability. So Concur has helped us. One of the greatest online resources we use is PCO or Planning Center on
for sure.
I'm sure a ton of people use that. And the last one I would bring up, we don't have meetings to have meetings. In fact, I'm buying T-shirts for everybody that says I just survived a meeting that could be an email. But but one of the things we're using is something called freeconferencing.com.
Yep.
And we're able to do these online calls. I do it with up to 100 volunteers at a time, and it's recorded. They can go back and listen to it. And that's sometimes we have meetings that way. In fact, my staff meetings, as far as with volunteers on my campus, we do it once a month like that. So it's very helpful.
Very cool. What's a book that you've read in the last, 6 months to a year that's had an impact or shaping your thinking?
Wow, there's two books in the last couple months that are making a huge impact on me. One of them is called Battlefield of the Mind by Joyce Myers. I've read it a couple times before, but it really is bringing me back to the area of how we think really will determine what we do, and what we do will determine our destiny, so to speak. Now, I know God is the author of what we do, but our choice in how we make. So I've been really thinking about how I think and focusing on making sure I'm thinking the right things towards people, towards myself, and making a difference there. I'm also a certified behavioral specialist with Dr. Roman Personality Profiles, and he has a book out called Positive Personality Profile. And Rich, I'm telling you, as a leader, if you can understand your people, and what I mean by that is that stuff we don't understand is the gap. They're late to a meeting. Why are they late? And we will always fill the gap in with something. But there are some people that are wired a certain way, and if we can understand how they're wired, it makes us better at how we give them tasks or what our expectations are, or what we can do. It just makes us, we become Collins, getting them in the right place on the right bus, doing the right thing.
Right. Nice, very cool. What's another ministry you're looking to, that's kind of inspiring you, is helping you, think through, what the ministry look like in the future for you at Destination?
We definitely look at other in our area. I wrote in other churches, but there's a particular church we've connected with called New Spring Church in South Carolina with Perry Noble and his staff there, and Shane Duffy, a friend of mine, and we get to talk a little bit. And their resources, they have a network. They share with us. They encourage us. We've been to their double conference and things like that. So they've done a tremendous amount of encouragement towards us. We're similar in styles and things like that. Although they they have 2 or 3 more people than me. Exactly. And then, no, I do a lot of work with Don Maxwell. I appreciate his spirit of his service to the Lord and his consistency in leadership. We're about to take our staff book with him called Intentional Living. In fact, no one has it yet. It comes out October 6th, but I was able to get it because I'm a coach for him, and we're going to go through that because those 2 things. One is more of a culture. New Spring's more of a culture of how we minister, and Maxwell's leadership teaching is part of what we use when it comes to how we develop and raise our leadership lids.
Cool.
So those are 2 areas.
Great. If you could get 15 minutes with any leader alive, and that's hard. That's hard to narrow down. Who would you want to get with that and why?
Wow. Yeah. That's a tough question, really, because there's so many different ones. But as I think about it, I thought of George W. Bush.
Okay.
Now, before you crack up a little bit and start thinking about what my strategery was.
Yes, your strategery.
I don't know him, obviously.
Right.
I only know what I have seen, and I read his book. But I guess for me is I watched this man go through a really difficult time in our country, and I've seen him afterwards. And what I've seen, I don't know at all. This appears to be a person who is at peace with his decisions. And I don't know about you, Rich, but I don't know how many nights you've been awake where you've looked and you said, man, I wonder if I did the right thing. And it's bothered you for a minute or a little longer. And I'd like to talk to him and say, hey, tell me about 9/11. Tell me about afterwards. A lot of people say you're a problem here, but I haven't heard you really attack back. Yeah. How did you find that perspective in that? I think that would be a cool interview for you to be in.
That's very cool. That is very cool. Great. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. If you were going to kick back, obviously you're leading in a great church, growing church, and you're looking to just have a little bit of fun. What would you do, just to kind of relax a little bit?
I have a 2003 anniversary edition Fat Boy Harley Davidson.
Nice.
And my wife and I love going out on the bike. I was thinking about going out today, but it's a little rainy here in Virginia. And so I might just go out and sit next to it and talk to it for a minute. But I love doing that. And I've had the privilege for the last 14 years being a basketball official. And I worked in NCAA for about 8 years. And some of our conferences I've loved that. So I retired from that because they all say 20 and I've gotten older, but I'm either going to be officiating basketball or riding my Harley Davidson, man. There's nothing like it. You look like you need to be on a Harley, man.
Yeah, I know. It's the haircut. It's the haircut for sure. That's great. Well, Jim, I really appreciate you being on the show today. Thank you so much for taking time out. If people want to get in touch with you or the church, how can they do that? Well, you can send an email, obviously, to me at destinationwire.com. That's Pourteau, Pourteau at destinationwire.com. You can hook me up on Facebook. Love to connect with you on Facebook, or if you go web search for Jim Pourteau or Jim Pourteau. Unfortunately, I come up all over the place. I would love to add value. If there's any way, we have a real mission at our church to help as much as possible. We probably work with 4 or 5 pastors a month that come in and visit us. If we can add value to you, let me know. It's part of our heart and our desire, and we wish to learn from you, so it'd be great. Very cool. Well, thanks so much, Jim. Thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's Unseminary podcast. Don't be shy. We'd love to connect. Check out Unseminary Inbox. You can sign up at unseminary.com, and we'll send you helpful training resources every week. Plus, you'll gain immediate access to our exclusive members area with tons of resources you can use. Connect with Rich on Twitter at Rich Birch or through email, rich@unseminary.com. Don't forget to check out the show notes for this episode at unseminary.com. It includes links to what we talked about today and more. Leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Did you enjoy today's episode? Drop by iTunes and leave a review. Thanks again for tuning in to this week's Unseminary podcast. Join us next week when we'll learn more stuff we wish they taught in seminary.